It is very impressive to view holographic anatomy models using the HoloAnatomy viewer on the HoloLens. Clients get excited by the possibilities but don't know how the content was created. We use the HoloAnatomy Designer tool to do this. As we developed the Designer tool, it was essential that we make it very intuitive and easy to use. We know that faculty and content creators have limited time to learn new technologies, so it was of utmost importance to us to make this as easy as possible. It's sometimes hard to believe that such a simple and intuitive tool can produce such beautiful holographic anatomical models. So let's get started with our demonstration of creating a holoanatomy lesson regarding the gallbladder, biliary ducts, and the major duodenal papilla. Along the way, we will demonstrate major pedagogical features like creating multiple slides or scenes, modifying anatomical objects with highlights, transparencies, custom labels, and adding 2D images to the scene. The Designer Tool Workspace. We are going to start off with an aerial view of the workspace in the Designer tool. The view you see here is a pristine view with no content added yet. First is the title bar area. Note the slideshows are saved as zip files. Next, we see the menu items. We can expand the menu to see more information. Most of the items are recognizable, but one item we will talk about later looks like a cloud. This is the Share feature. Now onto the slide strip. It looks similar to what you see in PowerPoint. However, there is an Edit Slide option. We will cover that in depth as we create our slides. The center area is the preview window. This is where you will see the objects you add to your slides. As we add content, you will see how this works. Next is the content panel that has 3 tabs used to create the holographic content for the slides. Note how easy it is to expand the hierarchies of the female and the male. We have over 8,000 different anatomical objects divided between the female and male. As we add content to the slides, we will investigate how to add and manipulate these anatomical objects. Next up is the Images tab. This is where you can add images. You can add 2 of these images per slide. You can add text, illustration, diagrams, radiological images, and even cadaveric images to cover variations you might see in a cadaver lab. The last tab is the Custom Labels tab. We will demonstrate how that works when we add some content to our slides. This lesson is going to focus on the gallbladder and biliary ducts. I want the students to eventually be able to trace the path of the ducts from the gallbladder until it ends at the duodenum. I want them to identify the location of the major duodenal papilla as well. We will create slides that modify the scale and position of the hologram just to demonstrate these features. I will then create a slide which shows 2 images I obtained from radiopedia.org that relates to the gallbladder. For the last slide, I will be adding both male and female models to demonstrate additional anatomy I want to include. During the process of creating the slides, we will be taking a look at the content in the HoloLens. Creating a slide. Let's create our first slide. We need to add a title to the slide, so I'm going to click on the Edit Slide icon. I'll type in a title and then choose a position and scale. I'm going to keep them at normal or standing and 100%. I can add notes if I want, and also choose the classroom layout for this slide. I want a central hologram, so I will choose Combine Rooms, adding objects. I want to work with one body to begin with, and I'm choosing the female. After I expand the female hierarchy, I'm going to show the entire digestive system by clicking on the 1 checkbox. Now we have some content to work with. In the preview window, I can rotate the content, pan up and down, and then zoom in and out. I don't need to include the female peritoneum, so I'm going to use the Inspect Object tool to identify the category in the hierarchy and remove it all in one click. As I mentioned before, I want the students to trace the biliary ducts, so I am going to use the highlighting feature to illustrate the ducts involved. I'm going to use the Inspect Object tool to click on the right anatomical lobe of the liver to remove it from this slide. I want to begin by highlighting the gallbladder. I'm choosing the gallbladder from the hierarchy and then repositioning my view in the preview window. By zooming in closer and rotating the view so I can access the posterior objects. Let's highlight the gallbladder with a bright green color. I've located the gallbladder in the hierarchy, and now I click on the Editing Object icon. Then I drop down to the Highlight option and choose the color I want to use. When I click Save, the highlight color appears in the preview window. Let's pick up after I have highlighted the ducts and are now down to the location of the major duodenal papilla. To add a label to the papilla, I need to be able to see it clearly in the preview window. To do this, I am going to get rid of the duodenum temporarily. Again, I'm going to use the Inspect tool to locate the duodenum in the hierarchy, and all I need to do is to check off that duodenum and it will disappear. As shown, you can clearly see the end of the cystic duct where the papilla is. Now I click on the Labels tab to add a custom label. First, add a label title, then choose a text color, and in this case I'm going to choose not to have the dot as the terminator. Click Next to proceed. Since I have a clear view of the area of the papilla, I can easily click on that spot where I want the label to point. I can already see that I need to rotate the label, so I'm going to zoom out of the view. I want to reposition the label to the posterior of the model. Just adjust the rotation slider until it is in the correct position. Check to make sure you are satisfied and then click Finish. You can always go back and adjust the label if you want to. To make the second slide, I'm just going to duplicate the first slide. In this next view, I want to make the duodenum transparent so that the students can check to make sure they understand where the papilla actually is. I need to work with the duodenum object, and I click on the Edit Object icon and drop down to the Transparent effect. It doesn't matter which color you choose in this case. Click Save. You can get an idea of what the transparency looks like in the preview window, but to really get the full effect, we should view it in the HoloLens. So let's publish or share what we have created so far so that we can view it. Publishing the slideshow. First, click on the Cloud or Share icon in the menu. Type in a title for your slideshow. Click Share. The view will return to the work area. Now I've moved over to the HoloLens and have opened the HoloAnatomy viewer. Let's look at the two slides we just created. Here we are viewing the first slide. Remember, you want the students to follow the biliary ducts to the major duodenal papilla. Try this out for yourself by placing your head in the lumen and following the label leader to the terminus. To navigate to the next slide in the HoloLens, you use the Hand menu and choose Next. This next slide has the transparent duodenum, and you can see the transparency effect better in the HoloLens. Back to the Designer tool. After looking at the slides in the HoloLens, I think I could also try a view without the large intestines, ileum, jejunum, and the digestive system of the head and neck. So to make slide 3, I just duplicate slide 2. Then use the Inspect Object tool or click directly on the object in the hierarchy. All I need to do is deselect the objects and they will disappear from view. For slide 4, I want to increase the scale to 200%. Again, I duplicate the slide, go to Edit Slide and choose 200% for the scale. For slide 5, I want the model to remain at 200%, but change the position to prone. This is where I want to add the images I downloaded from radiopedia.org. So click on the Images tab, go to Add Images, and choose the image I want to display in the scene. You can import one image at a time. Once the images are imported, click on the checkbox in the upper left-hand corner of the thumbnail. This moves the image to the top of the list. Let's pause for a moment and briefly look at the toggle cursor and the magnify tool. When I activate the toggle cursor option, you will see a blue dot that represents my gaze. I can even use the cursor like a laser pointer if I have images in the scene. When I gaze at the hologram, you can see the dot on the model where I am looking. This is a great tool to use, especially in remote sessions. It's like having the teacher there in person. Now let's look at the magnify tool. Notice the focus area that appears. I just grab the focus area and move it where I want the magnification to occur. Once I am satisfied with that, I step back and locate the magnification sphere. I can now grab that sphere and manipulate it as illustrated here. In slide 6, I want to add the male model's digestive system. I'm going to choose the Reset button to get back to the original categories of the hierarchy. And when I click on the digestive system for the male, the scene now has 2 models. To the male model, I am going to add extra vasculature and the diaphragm. Once that's done, I want to view it in the HoloLens. Moving on to the last slide, let's take a quick look at the 2 models appearing in the same scene. In this case, I am leaving the female model unchanged. I added the male model to the scene and added in the diaphragm and appropriate vasculature. There are no highlights or transparencies in the male model, so it serves as a good way for a quick self-assessment by the student. For instance, can they still locate the biliary tree and the major duodenal papilla? We have demonstrated some of the amazing content that you can create using the Designer tool and hope you have a better appreciation of what that content looks like when viewed in HoloAnatomy. We also included a tiny demonstration of some of the extra pedagogical tools like the cursor and the magnifying tool. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, it is very important to us that creating the slideshows using the Designer tool is intuitive and easy to use. Using your very own custom created content rather than using pre-made content and viewing that in the HoloAnatomy app will be transformative for both teaching and learning the way you desire. The Designer tool gives you the flexibility to create learning experiences uniquely suited to your curriculum. We are very excited to see what you create.